Good evening. Good evening. Dave Guerra here. How's it going? Welcome, everybody. Hi there. Dave here. That's what it says right there. And follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Get that out of the way. Follow. Got some great stuff out there for you. This is, before we get started, I do definitely want to say, yes, I do believe Carol Baskin did feed her husband to the tigers. That's it. I'm out there. I'm on that side of the street. So that's where I am in the whole thing. So that being said, good evening. Let's have a chat about leadership for Tuesday, April 14, 2020. The month is halfway over, right? The month is halfway over. Well, we got tomorrow. Anyway, so I'm your host, Dave Guerra. Thanks for stopping by. This is Let's Have a Chat About Leadership. This is the show where everyone is either a leader or a future leader. Don't forget that. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, is a leader or a future leader. So, with that being said, welcome to the show. Tonight's topic, because it is Tuesday, it is leadership in the news, and we're talking about leadership in the news, deployment of resources. Deployment of resources. So that's what we're talking about today. And I want to share something. It came across my TV screen earlier in the earlier news, and it caught my eye. And it's like, well, I didn't know these guys were doing this, but yes, they are. And when I mean guys and gals. The Texas Guard and apparently the National Guard in many states, obviously, are mobilized throughout to help expand healthcare capacity during the COVID-19 threat. And here in Texas, our Governor Abbott, yes, there are other governors, not just that one in New York that everybody keeps showing on TV. There are other governors, and Governor Greg Abbott is the one for the state of Texas. And he activated the National Guard on March 17th in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The activation included 3 Joint Task Force brigades, the 56th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, the 72nd Infantry Brigade Combat Team, and the 176th Engineer Brigade, which will lead 10 general support units positioned across the state. So, he held a news conference with Major General Tracy R. Norris, the Adjutant General of Texas, and the Texas State Capitol, and said that the Guard would provide medical, logistics, transportation, communication support for healthcare. The primary role of the Guard is to expanding healthcare capacity, thus increasing access to supplies and equipment, as well as staffing capacity and the number of hospital beds. So boom, there we go. So we're talking about deployment of resources. Folks, in any organization at any given time, you're going to face a situation where you're going to have to deploy resources. You're going to have to move them outside the norm. And in this case, outside the norm being activating the National Guard. So here they're taking these citizen soldiers and they're moving them from civilian life to active duty. And so now they've got to leave their place of business, their homes, whatever they were doing. If they were deemed essential personnel to begin with, now they're activated. And now they've got to leave whatever they're doing. So now those resources are now gone. And now these individuals are now moving to a higher level of operation. And across the state of Texas, across all the states that are activating their National Guard, kudos to them. And it's nice to have that resource. It is nice to have that resource in any state because, again, what might not be flared up in one part of the state is a hot spot on the other side of the state, so they can quickly move people. And in situations where individuals are falling ill themselves and it's causing an essential business to lose out, or an essential operation to lose out on personnel because there's no one or not enough people there to take care of the process and keep the flow moving. And well, here steps in the Guard. And here steps in the Guard to create all these hospitals, makeshift hospitals, MASH units, I guess is what we would call it. They have a different name now. I don't know, but that's what I would always call it, would be a MASH unit, a Mobile Army Surgical Hospital. And I think it's got a different name, and I just can't remember. So I do apologize there. But again, so it's about allocating resource, and it's a real, true reality of leadership. And not in the leadership sense of making decisions, but yes, it is, because it's a necessary decision. It's a required decision. It's a decision that cannot be, well, let's put together a focus team and let's figure out what we need to do. No, that's already done. That time for that is already come and gone. So there are no times for focus teams. There's no time for committees of this or ad hoc that. No, those days are gone because, again, this thing is an unfolding, constantly evolving, fluid situation. There are no times for that. So somebody has to make that decision. And in the business side of things, let's just say we're past this COVID-19 situation. Hypothetically, let's move forward into the future. It's going to happen. It happened prior to that. So it's going to happen again where businesses, leaders, leadership, management teams, groups are going to be faced with, we've got to move resources now. We don't have time to waste. Typically, that would be in an event of, weather disasters, man-made disasters, or some situation that now one part of a town is disrupted and the other part is functional. Do you move your operations? And I've talked about this before in other settings, some of my other podcasts, where in the storms, because we're coming into 2 weeks away from May, and May is the last month before hurricane season. So now we got to start really looking at that and what will be our contingencies on top of the contingencies we are already in. What happens if a hurricane comes in and wipes, slams into the Texas coast or the Alabama coast or the Virginia coast, North Carolina? What then? What contingencies are there? Well, again, it's going to happen. So the deployment of resources, it's something that has to be on the minds of every leader right now, all the time, going forward, even after this, because it does show that it's not a matter of when, it's a I'm sorry, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It is a matter of when. So when that happens again, and we're going to face this situation, not necessarily at the level we're facing it now, but to some degree, there might be pockets of the country that are going to face this situation the way it is right now. They'll face it again. So time to get to work. Time to start thinking. Start to think about how you're going to deploy your resources. How are you going to return back to some normalcy during a chaotic situation, in an unfolding situation? As leaders, this is the time that you're thinking these things. As a leader and the leadership, this is the times you're really putting those plans into place, because what if you're already in the middle of something, in this case, COVID-19, let's go back to now, middle of COVID-19, and then a hurricane hits. Well, now you've had to really truly expand your resources and figure out what resources are going to be available, what are no longer available, and what are more just like, you got to be kidding. Because it'll happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and it's going to be taxing. It's going to be very taxing. So we can only hope for a light hurricane season, but even then, when it does happen, and it will happen, to what degree will it deliver damage, destruction, and mayhem? Look at these storms that have been rolling through the nation over the weekend. Tornadoes, rain, power outages, and lots of death and destruction. A lot of destruction. But it's that time of year. And now we're in the middle of this COVID-19, the pandemic. So again, leadership has to realize that, hey, catastrophe can lay on top of another catastrophe, can lay on top of another catastrophe, and it's not going to be good. But again, working and planning and realistically looking at what it's going to take to get this resolved and moving forward, then as a leader, your deployment of resources is going to be a little bit easier, because now you've already gone through, you've simulated, you've prepared, you've planned, you've realized what you're going to have to give up. You realize what you also have to bring in to make this a reality. So be careful out there when you're planning. Involve your team members. Involve all your team members. Just because you're the leader doesn't mean that your team members don't provide valuable input. They're the ones that are the boots on the ground. They are the ones that are making it happen. You definitely need their input. And realistically, you're hunkered down. Here comes a hurricane. Who can we count on the back end of that? And it's a realistic question. Because it used to just be, well, here comes a hurricane. Who can we count on to stick around afterwards? Or who's going to evacuate? Now it's like, you're already hunkered down. Who's going to be able to do something afterwards? And it is a sad reality, but it is a true reality, and it's a matter of when, not if. So I can't stress that enough. Now is the time to really start looking at your resources and seeing, and start looking at more contingencies on top of the existing plan, on top of the existing situation, on top of this international pandemic. Because just as quickly, something can flare up a little early out there in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Atlantic. One storm off the coast of Africa, and here it comes. So something to think about. Something to think about. Deployment of resources. Now's the time to really start wrapping your head around those other layers and what's going to happen on the back end. Because again, it is a reality. It's nice to have the Texas National Guard and all the other National Guard units throughout the nation. And that's a nice resource. But at the same time, it's also taken away from other situations, other institutions, other organizations, other companies, and those citizen soldiers, they answer the call, they step up because that's what they signed up for, that's what they raised their right hand for. But where does that leave the rest of the organization? Those they leave behind, those hometown businesses, organizations. Realistic? It's a reality, and without a doubt. It's no, we're way beyond simulations. We're knee deep in the middle of it. So get to work, get to thinking, and we'll figure this all out. But it's the sooner we start working on it, the better off we'll be in the back end. Everyone, I thank you for watching. Have a great evening. I'll talk to you on Thursday. There's no show tomorrow because it's the sports show with my brother. But talk to you on Thursday, and have a great one. Peace. Take care of yourselves. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you soon.